Jimee Lowe. Actually, it's James H. Lowe Jr. I go by Jimmy. I'm 52 years old. I'm an Army brat. I'm a veteran of the United States Air Force. I am, I guess I call home Eufaula, Alabama. I'm a product of integration. I was a guinea pig in the 60s. My parents put me and my sister into an all-white school. So I guess I've experienced racism just like most people, but maybe a little bit more because I was thrown directly into it.
That was still in Alabama those years.
Right. So I finished high school. I integrated through the first grade in high school. My father was in Vietnam at the time. As a matter of fact, he had 2 tours in Vietnam. I can honestly say I was really proud to see a black president. I wish my grandparents were around to see it. I thought it would never happen, but it did happen. It was good to see it. I think it's kind of caused a little upheaval with some of the networks on TV like Fox. And I always jokingly say Fox is getting back for all the years of Living Color, so that's what I kind of say with a lot when I see Bill O'Reilly and Hannity and Combs and the new idiot, I can't think of what's this, but it's Glenn Beck.
Glenn Beck.
Yeah. So that stuff is kind of, and it's kind of, I knew that it was going to happen, the stuff would start going to happen. Even my father talked about it, that he'd have problems, but it's good to see some of the changes that has happened in America. I would like to see more. I'd like to actually see Obama get into, I'm really big into civil rights, some of the cold cases that have happened that there's been, the presidents in the past have kind of not really been interested in opening up. I'd like to see some of those things happen. I do worry about the president as well as Eric Holder, some of the statements he's been making, and I think we're ready for change, but a lot of people don't want to change, and they're going to do as much as they can to stop change, I believe. And they're even to the point where they're exciting a lot of these nuts, and hopefully nothing will happen, but I do worry about this stuff happening. Kind of, I guess, like the Kennedy brothers, but a different type brothers, So, I guess in another aspect. But, and I'm doing a presentation, I don't know if you know that, for the Day of Absence, or for the Day of Presence. And I wanted to actually include some of the things that Eric Holder spoke in his speech. And I don't think he would have done that if, to be honest with you, if the president had been black. I was glad to see him do it because people aren't really used to seeing black men expose their manhood, I guess, for a lack of a better term, and to speak out on things that they normally wouldn't speak out about. Like Colin Powell was kind of a politician. He would never speak out, but I have Colin Powell on my film talking about race, something you normally wouldn't. It's kind of taboo for politicians to talk about in those areas. But that's kind of my take on what's been going on.
Okay. Can we go back over, let's put on the brakes a little bit and go over this territory kind of more leisurely. So let's go way back to the kind of those childhood years in Alabama that you were talking about, and maybe some of the things that you remember. I mean, you called yourself a guinea pig.
Right.
Can you kind of put yourself back in your own kind of child's perspective on the way the world was changing around you, and how you saw it, how you and your classmates, black and white, were responding to these things, but also maybe some differences that you saw between the adults around you and the way that the kids were thinking about these things?
Well, when I say back then, it was me and my sister were the only 2 blacks in the school. So I had basically, and we had the maids and the janitors and the cooks in the school were black. But my first year, we were the only blacks, and we had to actually walk through, back then, the white projects. I don't know, have you ever heard of Eufaula, Alabama?
No.
Eufaula, Alabama sits on the border with Georgia. It's Marilyn McCoo.
Okay.
Her grandfather was the first black doctor in my town, T.V. McCoo, Dr. T.V. McCoo. George Wallace is originally from, you know George Wallace?
I do, indeed.
He was originally from my town. He was originally, as a matter of fact, a judge in my town, in my county. And I think a lot of the racism mainly came from the parents, and that was one of the things my grandmother would always say, she was extremely afraid of white people. And she would always say once the older white people died out, things would get a lot better. And it did get a lot better. A lot of times when you were at school, the white kids would start speaking. When I first got there, I'd walk down the hallways and the white kids would get up against the wall. I sat down to the lunchroom table. Everyone would get up at the table. Nigger jokes. You hear nigger jokes in the first grade. I heard them all the time. There was this one kid. It was like it was his job to harass me every day. He'd pronounce me a free nigger every day, kind of like the Abraham Lincoln. This was, like I say, in the '60s. But back then, and then when I finally graduated from high school, our prom was segregated. We had, and still to this day, pretty much, my town, we have a black graveyard, we have a black funeral home, they have the white funeral home, they have the white graveyard. I think maybe in 2 incidents where they've mixed, where they've had white people in the grave. One was this guy's lover, and the other one was from slavery, that the master buried his servant next to him because he wanted to serve him in heaven. And this is in, you can go right to my town, and I can show you the grave, and this is put on this grave. So that's the kind of mentality I grew up with. Now on Facebook, a lot of people that wouldn't even talk to me are contacting me because they have kids now, and I guess they don't want their kids to think they were that way, and they're changed now. They're not under their parents. And it's the same thing when you were downtown, the little white girl that would every once in a while speak to you in class. When she was with her mom, she was afraid to say hi. So you got that type of stuff.
And you learned how to read it.
Oh yeah. I grew up with it. My father was military, and that was one of the reasons he didn't want, when we moved south, to go to the black school. He went to my first day of school. He took me and my sister to the black school, and he asked to see their books. And then he took us to the white school, which was actually right up the hill from us, and the black school was on the other side of town. And then he asked to see we went to the white school, and he asked to see their books. And he saw that their books were brand new and nicer, and he said, well, this is where you're going to go to school out, not taking into account what would happen to his children. He just was interested in that they had new books, and he wanted to, I guess, flaunt his, I won't say flaunt, but he wanted to exercise his rights for his children to get a better education. That's what I believe in. But it didn't really work out that way. It's kind of hard to get an education when people are spitting on you, and they're putting you in a remedial reading class when you can read better than anybody in the class. So that's some of the things they ask. I also changing the subject. I heard you were a big Jimi Hendrix fan. I actually brought a few things for you to check out. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the way I grew up. And I've kind of made it, I guess, a mission to educate people on race.
Right.
And so that's been one of my things. I've kind of combined music and African American history together to try to tell a story. And it's not like the Tuskegee Airmen or any of that stuff. It's the graphic stuff, like lynchings and stuff like that. And I wanted to kind of show, compare it with the blues. And I also brought you a copy to take with you, too, for you to check out. I redid Strange Fruit, and I wrote a song called Red, White, and Blues. I wrote it after I saw George Bush just talking about the axis of evil. That's what kind of inspired me. And they were talking about looking for terrorists, and I thought about all the terrorists from the 60s that had gotten away and cold cases filed. And so when I made this film, I actually had problems even making the film. When I started sending it around to a bunch of people, and all of a sudden I started seeing all these cold cases being reopened.
Yeah. Do you remember, going back to the 60s, do you remember the first time that you were aware that there was a movement afoot that might really change things?
Oh, yes. My father would my father's a very peaceful man, but he's always kind of looking for things. So he had this Malcolm X grassroots. I can remember when calling a black person black was a bad thing, and even back then, I didn't want to be called black. Then James Brown said, "Loud, I'm black and I'm proud." The Afros, the dashikis, and Roots, I think, really was a big inspirement for black people to start. You start getting away from the Billies, Johns, and James. You start getting Abdul, Rakim, Shaniqua, the things that people make fun of now. But there was really black people trying to claim their identity or get that. The whole Back to Africa movement, I remember that firsthand. As a matter of fact, I got really excited. Saturday on BET, they're finally releasing Soul Train DVDs, and it's like 9, and you're seeing the Afros and the Afro Sheen and Black History Month, and they had Frederick Douglass. I remember those commercials about afros and all that stuff. I said, man, this is so cool that somebody's finally got a clue to release this stuff. And they came out with the Midnight Special. If you don't mind me, how old are you?
I'm 52.
I'm 52 too.
Yeah.
So I turned 52 in March.
Uh-huh.
So seeing all those things kind of really, I said, well, this is good. And then also too, the younger generation of black people aren't playing instruments. And so that's kind of seemed like it's kind of become a void, and you don't really see enough of that to inspire people to play instruments.
Right.
So it's like the music has kind of died, I would say. It's and even the content of what we sing about is not as powerful as it used to be. It's a little more message orientated, and even the message orientated stuff a lot of times won't even get played, which is bad too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've seen the change in BET. You know, BET is not as the quality that it used to be. You know, I seen BET go through its period with Comic View, where they were dropping the N-word on, you know, they were just, and then when they referred to white people, they referred to white people as white people, and they referred to each other, us ourselves as nigger, and every other word was this and that, and there were comedians, and finally somebody got a clue, hey, we need to stop this, and it stopped. But, I mean, even comedians today still kind of do that. It's like if I say that about you, then you're going to draw back, but if I talk about myself, and you'll listen. Mm-hmm. So if I refer to myself negatively, and you hear it in tons of hip hop, you know, every other word, and then it's kind of where it's taken on. You've got, we try to kill it, and they're bringing it back, you know.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about kind of in generational terms? I mean, so let's talk about what is it? Maybe, basically like 50 or 60 years of historical time in which these, you know, too many things have remained the same, but a lot of things have changed.
Right.
Can you talk about it in kind of generational terms, in terms of the adults that you grew up with, your elders, then yourself, and then the younger people, either your children if you have them, or the students that you work with?
Right.
I mean, how would you describe these kind of glacial shifts in American kind of racial understanding in generational terms?
The older generation, like my grandparents, they were really more afraid to talk about it, and I always saw them as being more passive, I guess. And then my parents' generation and my parents' generations were the ones that kind of started the ball rolling. And then I would say, and then my generation and part of my parents' generation were the ones that kind of said, hey, and they're the ones that remember it. The younger generation has never really experienced it. And that, I mean, really experienced it, so they really say, well, there's no problem. And so a lot of this stuff is kind of just stuck in that environment, and when they're angry, they're taking that out on each other, you know what I'm saying? So you have, and if you look at the younger generation, they're really seems like they're really pissed off. Even when you go out to a club, it seems like everybody's so tense, you know. And the first thing, my generation, we got in an argument, we'd fist fight, and the next day we're friends. This generation, the first thing they would do is go get a gun, and they all these, even their games that they play. We went out and we played baseball, we played basketball, stickball, chess. We didn't sit down to the controller shooting cops or raping a prostitute and then getting points for raping a prostitute, kicking out and killing her afterwards and getting points. There were no games like that for us. And so that, and even, it's like, I can tell you what the second form of slavery was in the 80s when crack hit. Crack totally changed the environment. And I would say that was a big part of it. The neighborhoods went from being neighborhoods to hoods. You had a large amount of pawn shops pop up. You had crack babies, AIDS, the disrespect of women, all that came along. Your welfare system kind of really blew out of proportion at the time. So, and I can remember people losing their houses, losing their cars behind crack cocaine. I can remember when cocaine was considered the rich man's aspirin and you didn't see it in the neighborhood. And then all of a sudden, and I was in the Air Force too, so I knew when they were saying that the government brought this shit over there, they did. I knew I was on Air Force bases when cocaine was on Air Force bases, and I knew where to go get cocaine on the Air Force base. So they can say all that bullshit about it. It wasn't. Oh, it's made up conspiracy. That's bullshit. I know firsthand that cocaine was brought in at the time. I knew people that were getting put out of the military behind cocaine.
What were the years that you were in the military?
I was in the military from 1979 to 1992. So I know firsthand, and they can say that, oh, the government had nothing to do what they did. Mm-hmm. But that's what really, really destroyed, I think, the black family a lot. And then the prison system, the three strikes law. And then you had the mentality, too, with people. You would see people in young black men posing like they're on vacation. They're in khakis and they're in prison. Then I would say, but the sexual assault and all that stuff kind of went on really bad during the prison era, and then people were getting out of prison and bringing that stuff home. So there was it was a great, and it seems like my generation has more respect for the older generation. The younger generation here doesn't really have a whole lot of respect for this generation, and it seems like a lot of times because my generation, a lot of people from my generation won't go to the boys' prison and talk to them and tell them, hey, there's a better way to do this, or no, they don't have that mentor, and all those the after-school programs kind of depleted. Then they're not around for anybody to mentor or talk to, so they're not really getting a whole lot of that, and that's what I can see with the generations is. My grandfather talked to me. My grandfather, my parents talked to me about life. They talked to me about getting ahead, and that was their goals, is education. And a lot of that's not really pushed too with the younger generation.
Where did you go after you left Alabama?
Soon as I went to Tuskegee for a year, Tuskegee, which is in Tuskegee, Alabama, and then after that, my girlfriend at the time got pregnant, and I married her, and California. And then I went to Iceland. I was in Keflavik, Iceland for a year. I was there for when Reagan came for the summit. Mm-hmm. And then from back there, I came back to California, and I got out in 92. So, I'm sorry, my first assignment was in Montgomery, Alabama, National Air Force Base. I was there for 4 years. Then after that 4 years, I went to Edwards Air Force Base, which is in Lancaster, California. From Lancaster, California, I went remote to Keflavik Iceland Naval Air Station for a year. Back there, I came to March, and then I got out in 92.
And then since 92,
Since 92, 93, I moved up here. I've been here this time 10 years. I moved back to Alabama for 2 years in 96, I'm going to say. So I moved back to Alabama for 2 years. I worked for a boys' prison. There, I got tired. I felt like I was locked up most of the time, talking to them, trying to show them a different way. I got tired of that, and then I met a woman. I moved back out here, and I've been out here for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So.
We talked about kind of social change in the terms of historical time or change over time. What about geography? I mean, you've traveled a lot. I mean, even in the same moment, I mean, how much change, how much difference is there between Alabama in 2010 and Washington State in 2010 or California in 2010? I mean, do you see a huge variation in those terms still?
Alabama has changed a hell of a lot. When I was there, it was black and white. Now we have a large Hispanic population. I didn't even think people in Alabama knew what Chinese food was, to be honest with you. We have 2 Chinese restaurants. There's 2 Mexican restaurants. There's Indians that mainly have the hotel chain, so you see a lot of East Indians, which is kind of which actually caused some bit of a trouble in the South, because I wouldn't say because a lot of people weren't used to it. So the people that they're normally discriminated against would be black people. Mm-hmm. Now they were doing it to Mexican people, and the sad thing about it, a lot of the black people have forgotten what happened to them. They're trying to do the same thing, which is, and if you look in California, which I grew up, now there's a thing between blacks and Mexicans in California. There's like a little rival between the gangs, but it's spilled over into the regular population. So that's the stuff that you see, that there is aggression, and like I said, it seems like there's a lot more hostility I think also too with the police, the thing with the police has kind of come to a head. If y'all know, if you've watched here, that there's been, my cousin was killed by the cops, so I have kind of a passion about that too. He was the 50th person to die from a taser. At the time, he was 42 years old. He's an ex-cop himself. He flagged down the police for help. And when they wrote it up as if he was some cocaine, marijuana crazed person that the cops couldn't handle. But he flagged them down, asked them for help. They started immediately trying to handcuff him, I believe was the thing, and they tasered him. She ended up tasering him 8 times. It fried his liver, it fried his heart, and it fried another part of his body. And at the time, he was, like I say, the 50th person. Now they're up to 260 something, I believe it is. And my aunt sued them, and the appeal, she won the appeal. They said it was excessive force. There was no question it was excessive force. He was handcuffed, and they have him actually videoed. And so they're saying that when he was he was dead when they took him in, but they said they had to poke him up to see. But
where was that?
This was in Florida, Orlando, Florida. And he was, like I said, the 50th person. He was a cop himself, he used to be, back in the day. And he stopped them for help. Somebody had supposedly stolen his car and was shooting at him. And they said he was acting erratic. So he ended up dying because he was acting erratic. And I asked people, I said, how many times have you heard of a white person stopping a cop for help and dying? You know? And racial profiling, that's pretty much the same. Things like I say, things have gotten better. You see more, on even TV, you see, TV is, I want to say TV has gotten better, but it's gotten also a little wild, a little perverted. It's, you see, with racial things, you'll see, on TV, you'll see mixed couples now. Used to, normally if you saw it, it would be the white man and the black woman. But now sometimes you see the black woman and the white woman, black man and the white woman. So you see that stuff. It's become a little too loose. I don't know if you ever watch, I watch MTV. I'm, like I said, a music junkie. If you were to go look and walk in my living room, I've got 2 guitars in my bed that I sleep with. I've got, my living room is basically a music store. I've got a Marshall stack. I've got Mesa Boogies. I've got keyboards. I've got a full drum set. I've got bongos, congas. I collect, eat, sleep, and live music. And I figured if it's something that I like, I could kind of combine the 2 passions. Mm-hmm. And history has always been kind of my thing too. Black history, or American history, has always been my kind of thing. So I figured if I combined the 2 together, I could educate people. I call it edutainment, like KRS-One. Yeah. So I combined the 2 to do these things, to talk about the things that people don't want to talk about, or the things, the uncomfortable things that people don't.
Can you talk in more detail about the kind of work that you're doing, and also maybe how do you gauge whether or not your message is getting across? I mean, what's the thing that you're hoping to see, or what's the thing that when you see it, you know that you're there?
When I get feedback from people, and even if it's negative feedback, any kind of feedback to me is good. I can present it angry, and if I present it angry, no one's going to get anything. They're just going to see me as the angry black guy, and they kind of see that anyway. But if I give it to them in a nice, comfortable tone, where I'm not shouting or anything like that, they tend to get it a lot better. And when I present pictures of people posing with bodies and doing all these things, I tell them, I didn't make these pictures up. I didn't take any of these pictures. I said all this stuff is stuff you can go right to your library if you want to see it and pull it down. And a lot of times I've gotten all kind of different, like I said, I've been doing this for off and on probably 10, 15 years. Mm-hmm. And it started out as just a slideshow. And I would do it sometimes in my house, and people would bring their kids to see. And back then, it was just a CD with some music, with me playing some blues chords and soloing over the top of it. Then I added speeches from Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and I pulled out the Martin Luther King that not the I Have a Dream speech,
right?
The angry Martin Luther King.
My government is the purveyor of violence, right?
That type of stuff, the stuff that people normally don't talk about when they mention Martin Luther King. And I basically took the 2 and tied them together and showed how similar they were, but their tactics were a little bit different, but they were basically saying the same thing. And like a lot of people are interested in hearing what you have to say and want to learn, and there are people that don't want, and those are the people that normally go into the other sciences, the stuff that they don't want to hear. And then you have people that act on it, and it's good. It's like we had a riot here. They had, dead presidents, by chance?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we had dead pres here, and they had a riot where they flipped over all the cars, and I was telling them, I said, now, they use excessive force, and see, we've had plenty of incidents with the police, the students and the police here. So they came in. First of all, they arrested the guy that had nothing to do with it, which was a black guy. And this is something you very seldom will see, is white people standing up for black people. And I told the kids, I said, you know what? I said, it's cool that you did this, you stood up, but if you'd have been black, somebody would have accidentally got shot. And I said, and that's the normal way it works. And me saying that is, no. But it's true. I said, I've seen it happen a billion times. The guy in the BART thing that Cynthia McKinney was just here, and she showed the BART thing. I said, I remember in the 70s seeing the Ku Klux Klan on national TV get out of their cars. This is in North Carolina.
Would they hold the communist parade thing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Get out of the cars, show them on film, shooting these people down point blank. And every last one of those people got off, And I pulled out old footage of stuff that from the civil rights from the 30s and 40s, where Jesse Jackson just kind of they did a reenactment a few years ago on it. I have some of the stuff. I brought stuff to actually show you if you want to see a little bit. And I brought some of my Jimi Hendrix stuff. This, I don't know if you've ever seen that.
Oh yeah.
That.
Yeah, this is a good one.
That.
This is where he plays that acoustic version of.
Yeah. And they're interviewing that one. I don't know, on the newer one they cut out the Pete Townsend. You ever seen the interview
where he kind of cops to his own racism?
No, where he talks to about Jimi Hendrix punching him. Jimi Hendrix asked him. He said, "When's the last time you ever really felt something?" He said, "You ain't never felt nothing in your life." And then he said, "Yeah, man, I felt something." And Jimi Hendrix draws back and punches him in the face. He talks about on this and on the
and they cut it.
On they cut it on, which I thought was wow. They cut it on. This one. This is
this is actually this.
Yeah. That. You ever seen this one? This is the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Right. And I've heard. This story has been going around for a long time. And this is Making Electric Ladyland.
Mm-hmm.
Hendrix is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
This is Woodstock, Monterey. I was right. And I've got, my buddy gave me his whole collection of Jimi Hendrix records, and it's like tons of records.
Vinyl.
This is what I wanted to show you. This was a cold case.
Louisiana Weekly.
They never did find the killers of that.
Oh, I remember this. The Morris Fort Bridge,
right.
1946.
And so that kind of got reopened and never really happened. And even doing this type of stuff, a lot of times it causes me trouble. Or actually I got suspended from work for like 2 weeks here behind some of the stuff. And I ended up having to fight the college. I fought the college. I beat them. They had to pay me 2 weeks back pay. Then I went after the union who refused to represent me, and they paid. I won, and then I beat them, and they had to give me my money.
What was the suspension about?
They said that I was harassing people. There's and it always happens right after here, this is for you. Right after I show this film, I already have a problem. There's a thing on cultural appropriation. I address a bunch of different issues that deals with the physical violence and also deals with the mental violence. And I took clips of different stuff that I thought was important, and I tied some in. And then there's some stuff that's pretty controversial in there too. So I do some stuff in blackface, I do some stuff in whiteface. But it's a strange fruit is what I do, and it's like I say, it's pretty graphic, but it's history.
Yeah. Well, I have a bunch of questions about this. I mean, first of all, to be clear on it, what was the language they used to articulate what they thought you were doing was?
I have this is the court case.
Oh,
so I have this is the. I've sent stuff to Julian Bond. So that's some. I was a little cocky with it, and his response was kind of a little negative because he was doing a speech. He did a speech for the NAACP, and I wrote him. I said, "What?" I said, "It seems like somebody's seen my film and then followed the sequence." I'm thinking, well, hell, he's part of history too. He's been around a lot longer than I have, and he knows the sequence, and you basically follow the sequence. So I guess a little arrogant, a little cocky, I said, "Well, I think you've watched my film," and I know he has, but he was thinking that I was saying that he didn't know anything, I guess, and that's not what I meant. I was saying that that you've seen my film, because when he did his speech, it followed pretty much this film, note for note, pretty much, and he talked about the same stuff that was in this film, and so, but his response was, "Yeah, thanks for the film," one little line. I said, "Okay, cool." But I sent it to Cornell West, I sent it to BET, I sent it to museums, and all of a sudden I started seeing all this stuff pop up on news. And I said, well, no one was even thinking about this stuff before this came out.
So, but all of this, so the suspension and all of the legal stuff in its trail, that was all really recent. This is the early 2000s you're talking about?
Yeah, this was all, as a matter of fact, they got rid of he was the head of human resources. They ended up firing him. This is how I went after the union. They threatened me when I first came here. They said that I didn't even know I thought it was automatically taken out of your union dues. So they said they threatened, you have to be a part of the union to work here. So they weren't taking union dues. And all of a sudden I get this letter saying, hey, we're going to fire you if you don't pay your union dues. So I immediately went down to the payroll and started a plan. They started taking out my union dues. I had problems, and I went to the union for help. They said they couldn't win my case with 10 lawyers. I've never had a day of law school in my life. As a matter of fact, they tried to get my friend who works with me not to represent me. He was my union shop steward at the time. They wouldn't let him speak, but he went anyway, and he wrote down he wrote the information down for me to display. And I beat him, and they gave me my money back, and I started saying, well, I could sue you, but I just want all my union dues back from the 6 years that I've been paying dues, and you refuse to represent me, and I won myself. I said, if you're not going to represent me, and I represent myself, and I win, what do I need you for? Why am I paying dues? And I use, I won't say a little intimidation, but I kind of scared them.
What union is this?
This is, it's the Washington State. Well, this the Washington State Union. I'm sure. But
so it's the government employees union.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not AFL-CIO or something like that to that effect. But I all these days when I don't want to really be bothered, or I kind of my mode. I have lynching shirts, and so I wore a lynching shirt to trial. And that's what they really focused on more. And I also made them watch the film and to show them what the people were really upset about. And they got the point.
Oh, so the film became an exhibit?
Yes, I put it on. And they didn't want to watch it. I said, first of all, I put this on my list for an exhibit. I said, you need to find a DVD player and you're going to watch it. But a lot of people want to deny this stuff. It's like I've seen old German soldiers deny the Holocaust ever happened. You see these people, and some of that's in the thing. They talk about the black soldiers and how they experienced racism from the Germans and how the Germans were treated better than that. So I take all this stuff and I show it, but a lot of times people don't want to see this stuff. It's just they're in denial about stuff that they know happened. So that's always been kind of my passion, and it was my passion with the thing is to try to get some of the old cold cases opened.
Right. Can you talk more about your initial inspiration to do that kind of work? I mean, when was the moment when it occurred to you that that's what you wanted to do? You wanted to deal with history in a certain way and maybe fuse it with music or other kinds of artistic work. Where does that come from? And who are your models for that?
I listen to a lot of like Gil Scott-Heron. I listen to Last Poets. Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. My being here, I learned a lot. When I was a kid, I really didn't like blues. My guys were James Brown, the funk stuff, because I always thought blues was a man always whining about whiskey or mojo or women, and I felt like the black man's problem is a lot bigger than whiskey or mojo. When he's getting lynched and his house is being burned and stuff like that, and he's singing about whiskey and women, I said, why do I cry over women? And then I started listening to KPLU and hearing like a lot of white people singing the blues and not really knowing, I think, the true history of the blues. And they think, well, it's a 1-4-5 pattern, it's a pentatonic scale. But no, the blues is a lot more than that. It's just like what hip hop did when they were with the early hip hop, when it was about they had some sort of message. Like you had the Black Power movement with Public Enemy, KRS-One, where they went from the gold chains to African medallions, the culture end of it. And so I looked at the blues. I said, why can't he sing about what his problem was? Mm-hmm. And I hear it, and I say, and as a joke, I say, well, I'll play some blues and I'll see. Some of it also came from Living Color. Mm-hmm. You ever watch the old blues guy? He says, I wrote a song about it. Y'all want to hear it? Here we go. And he's like, he'll be talking about, well, he said, I know a lot of y'all think the old mayor here is a womanizer, but no, he's not a womanizer. He likes them little boys. I wrote a song about it. And then he's kind of exposed. That was my theme, to kind of expose or play with the stuff that people don't really want to talk about, are the real issues. And so that's what I wrote Red, White, and Blues about. I figured America has caused a lot of people the blues, so why not show how they caused the blues? And a lot of the last poets, they do poetry, but there was never actually a blues song. Mm-hmm. And then in the process of me thinking that way, I started learning about blues songs that were about that, and learning that they had to sing under singing code, so the person didn't know what they were talking about, but they were singing, and that's what I learned from the Martin Scorsese film. And after I had been talking all that noise, I had to turn around and add that to what I learned in the process of making the DVD. So, and hearing like Led Zeppelin, I grew up listening to Jimmy Page. When the levee broke, the whole time I thought that was a Led Zeppelin song. Right. And then I heard something from the 20s, an older blues acoustic version of When the Levee Breaks. And then Robert Johnson's line, I'm gonna squeeze the lemon till the juice runs down my leg. That's in his lyric. I had never heard Robert Johnson's lyrics, but I had heard it in Led Zeppelin. And then there's another tune that Led Zeppelin does that was a Muddy Waters tune. I said, well. And I said, well, I'm going to go back and research this stuff. And so I just started buying as much blues music as I could. And that's how I kind of got that. And there was a KPLU, which is 88.1. That's actually the only radio station I really listen to. It's a college station that's in Tacoma. And back when I was here before, they had a lady named Julia Centrales. She was an excellent DJ. And when she would talk about the music, she'd give you a little history behind it, and that's what encouraged me to research this stuff. So on my newer thing is called Blues 101, and there's a George Carlin sample that I took when he's talking about the blues, and I thought it was funny. But a lot of people, when you start talking or joking this way, they get real tense about stuff. It's for everybody. It is for everybody, but we have to be able to be real about it and talk about it without you.
Yeah. So. Do you find yourself? I mean, I'm really struck by this. This is the story about the suspension here. Do you find yourself doing a lot of? Carrying a big burden for people of color at the university? Like, do you find yourself doing a lot of the work that more people ought to be doing, or how do you understand your role in those terms at the college?
I do it because I think a lot of people are really afraid to do it. And when I first started doing it, I think they brought me into the classrooms to keep me from really showing it so much to the public. Because I would do it out in the, when I first started doing it, I would do it. Even the president, he tried to send me like some sort of little hidden message, and he started singing to me one day in his office, and so they kind of think I'm a little half crazy anyway here around here. So he started singing to me in his office about send me somebody to love, and he happened to see my slideshow out there. the first time I actually did it, there was 4 people and all of them are friends, and they're outside in the lobbyway where the library is. There used to be a stairwell. You could walk a staircase, and it came down. And so at the bottom of the staircase, I had 4 people watching me. My piece is the Red, White, and Blues. The song is like 8 minutes long, and I'm sitting there, and my eyes are closed. And by the time I open my eyes, I've got 200 people watching me. And this it really set the head of human resources off. He kind of got mad because he feels like that I'm showing something that should be shown. And so he was a little redneck guy. They ended up firing. He would say, this is the head of human resources, and he would say stupid shit about Native Americans. That's what ended up getting him fired. He was just an asshole that was just out of touch and in the human resources department. So he kind of sparked a lot of stuff. And he was talking about, one day he told me about this black guy that he had in his room, a roommate that didn't like him because he was white and da-da-da-da. He just started telling me all these things. I said, no, it wasn't probably because you're white, because you're an asshole. And he was an asshole. And it's just, like I say, a lot of people want to know things, but they're afraid to kind of be in, they want to see things by themselves, or they want to be in a comfortable environment where they're not thinking that, hey, they're going to judge me or this or that. And it was the same thing when I was a kid. Back to my childhood, we had a friend. This guy, the teacher would assign a student to show the new student around, and this guy's name was Kendall Kelly, and they started calling him a nigger lover. And after that, he was afraid that he didn't what the other people thought, so he stopped talking to me. But that's how a lot of times people want to know things, but are afraid. Or people want to learn things, but they're afraid a lot of times, so they don't, or they worry about with their friends. And then this generation has gotten better. Well, I don't care if you don't like this is what I like, this is what I do. But in the past, the younger generation always worried about what they. It's just with new music, the way our music is accepted, like how Jimi Hendrix had to go to England to become brought back here, and then now we claim him. And it's just like how Muhammad Ali was such an asshole back then, but now he's our hero, because I remember people didn't want to call him Muhammad Ali, they wanted to call him Cassius Clay, and he was a big mouth troublemaker. But now all that's passed, and he's a hero. Right. So it's just
And what happened to all the people who hated Martin Luther King so much? Try to find them today.
Thank you very much. That's what because I can remember a kid literally calling him a communist, and he hated him. And when I back to that, when he was murdered, there was a guy. My mother came and got us all out of school. And we went down to the courthouse. I'm not sure exactly why we went to the courthouse, but I remember truckloads of white people rolling around saying, yeah, that nigger got what he deserved, and da-da-da-da, and yeah, I knew it was going to happen, da-da-da-da, and da-da-da-da. And so that's what I grew up with, and that's probably the big reason why I do a lot of this stuff. And then my father, what he went through, and what my grandfather went through. I was telling you, my grandmother was afraid of white people, and I always wondered why she was afraid of until I started doing the research, and then I said, well, I understand, what she went through.
How did they communicate that to you? Like, how conscious was it on their part that they wanted to give you a kind of archive of really important stories to help you and kind of navigate this shit?
My grandmother was really afraid to talk about it. My mom would talk about it, and seeing like history books with lynchings in it kind of gave me a desire to learn more. And then later, I've been collecting lynching pictures for every time I could find something in a different book. I'd either take it and have a slide made from it, and then all of a sudden there was a book called Without Sanctuary that somebody was telling me about, and I ended up getting a copy of that book and taking more stuff out of it. And this guy, James, about Without Sanctuary?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this guy, how he started was he was collecting antique furniture, and he'd find all these old postcards.
Other postcards,
right.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, this guy's made a book. I can take some more of his stuff, and I constantly see newer stuff that I want to add to it, but I haven't yet.
Uh-huh. Can we talk a little bit, jumping
Sure.
forward again in time, just about your sense of the first year and few months of the Obama administration, both kind of what he's done as president, things, your kind of general sense of
Right.
of how it's gone, and including the kind of opposition that's come out of the woodwork over this stuff.
I think that it was I've always thought it would be good to have a health care plan. I always thought it'd be good for anybody that needed to go to the doctor to be able to go to the doctor, especially as rich as this country is. And when I was in Iceland, they had a health care system, and it seemed like it worked pretty good for them. And it's sad that if you don't have money, you can't live, and it shouldn't be that way. I think he's the president of all people, but I think he needs to really invest more in the black community, do some investment in the black community, more investment in the black community. I think he needs to really speak out on racial issues. I know he was forced to, but he shouldn't have to be forced to. He's a black man. He's experiencing it. Just because you're a politician doesn't mean you stop being a black person. You can speak as a black person and speak as a president too. Like I said, I'm really proud to say it. I know a lot of people. I think a lot of black people were in the beginning were a little hesitant about him becoming the president. They were a little scared and saying all the stuff that they said. I don't know if you watched like the State of the Black Union with Dick Gregory. Did you happen to see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought that was really, really enlightening for him, Dick Gregory, to say, especially when they were saying Obama isn't as black as Bill Clinton. What kind of shit is that, And I've said that about. Don't get me wrong. I've said that about black people too, but he's married to a black woman. And that was like one of the big things that black women liked. And plus, normally they say when a brother gets in position, he marries a white woman and forgets who he is. And he automatically will say that wants more to claim the white side of his culture. And he's calling himself a black man. That's a plus by himself. And from being here, you see that with a lot of biracial people. You see the different, and that's another thing that's really changing. The world is a lot more mixed than it was before. You have more categories of people, and I really think it's cool that end of it has changed, and I think that scares a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You see on even the programming, like if you watch the History Channel. The History Channel has been hyping a lot of racist groups. Like they had the Hammerskins, they had White Aryan Resistance, and they had another a skinhead group that they've been showing. And so they're hyping all this stuff, and they're giving voice to these skinheads, and they're saying, well, that's what's happening now. They're like the Zog, and they think all this stuff. Well, Obama's going to do this, and he's going to take away their guns. And so you hear that type of environment, and you see even TV ramping this stuff up. And like the end of the world. So you've got all these nuts that are hearing this stuff, and eventually they're going to act on it. They're tired of shooting at. This is just my opinion. But they're tired of shooting at trees out in the woods. They want to shoot people, and then eventually it's going to come to that. That's my opinion. So I think they need to really kind of ramp up. I mean, we're looking for Al Qaeda and all these cats, but I think we need to look for Uncle Sam around here too.
The Chris Rock routine. Yeah. I'm not afraid of Al Qaeda. I'm afraid of Al Cracker.
Yeah. But yeah, just that, and you see it, on TV, and it scares people, People, like I say, people don't really want to change that fast. And I just remember seeing it in the South, how people really hated black people. But they like the culture, and they like the food, and they like the service, But the people, they didn't really like them. Now that's changed. It's like the Mexican has become the bad person to them. And the Mexican and blacks are kind of, they should be, to me, best friends, just like Native Americans, but they are bumping heads, It's like they're using using them to go against each other. It's like in the South, a lot of black people are robbing Mexicans because they know that they have money, and that's been going on. And in the West, that's the gangbangers are shooting blacks because they're calling it like ethnic cleansing, and they're trying to. Neighborhoods that were predominantly black now are become largely Hispanic. So you've got the gangs kind of going at each other, and that's been going on for God knows. My kids are down in California. Like I said, I lived in California for a while. That's how I know all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, I mean, the world has changed, but it's a lot the same.
Yeah. Well, is there anything that we haven't talked about that you feel like we should have, or anything you wish that you had said that you haven't?
I can't really think of anything, but I'd like to get some feedback on my DVD. And so, are you a musician yourself?
Oh.